Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering? If the answer is yes, then you're ready.
Girl, like, we all seen this coming, right? I was the first one to call it out. You go back to my YouTube videos, I was the first one to call it out, and I was calling out her shenanigans, because you know why? I have a theory on her I will be talking about, but hold on. It says Demi Lovato got tired of using they them pronouns. It was absolutely exhausting. So I read the article, and she claimed that, like, she stopped using they them pronouns because she was so tired of constantly, explaining people, educating people about a useless pronoun that was made up, that no one cares about, no one knows about, because it's so ridiculous. So she went back to she, her pronouns, which, I mean, like, as you can see, the shoe fits. But in the article, she also says that she struggles with going to the restroom because she doesn't know, like, whether she should go to the men or women's restroom. And when she's in a women's restroom, she doesn't think that she belongs to be in there. But it's like, you look like a woman. Or that if she's, like, filling out forms, she doesn't know that, like, she should put female or male. And that it doesn't make sense to her to put either she's a female or male. Like, I can't. But I've saw this coming a mile away. We already know why she did this. Like, during that time when she was going through a cancellation. This is my theory. She was being canceled for, like, coming for this small cookie shop and stuff like that. Talking about how, like, they have sugar-free cookies and she got mad at them for that, something like that. But then everyone was canceling her. No one liked her. Everyone thought that she was being such a Karen, which she was. And then, like, a month or two later, like, she comes out saying that she's a, non-binary person, and then she gets all this praise, and then, then there goes a Loke in the background, her handler, just like Sam Smith's handler, in the background praying on her, telling her, like, yeah, you should be like that, yeah. I'm sorry, like, I get really upset because, like, these people are really playing with people's emotions and their brain, and they sell this stuff to, like, the youth, so it makes me actually insane. And we already know she did this just for stunts, because, like, if she was an actual transsexual person, there wouldn't be no change on the pronouns, okay? There wouldn't be no, like, oh, today I'm a she, her. Oh, today I'm a they, them. Oh, today I'm a he, him. Like, no. If you are trans, you will be going from either male to female or female to male, and that's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But she grifts off of that title for a very long time, and now she's tired of it. And now look at all the youth out there. All the youth that love Demi Lovato, all using the they, them pronouns now, thinking that this is okay to do. But I guess if they get tired of it, even though they're probably on hormones, they can just go right back to being a she, her, or a he, him, right? Okay. Demi Lovato, we're done.
This is so sad. Demi Lovato has been forced back into the binary. Forced to be a woman. How terrible. But this is exactly what conservatives want. They need women to be their little handmaids. This just goes to show that diversity, equity, inclusion programs are not doing what they're supposed to do, and we need to take action. I think that we should standardize using they, them pronouns for everyone until they can provide legal documentation proving otherwise. Similar to what they're doing in Canadian schools. I've got to hand it to these Canadian school boards. They sure have some excellent ideas on how to force inclusion.
As if anybody actually cares, Demi Lovato is now going back to using she, her pronouns instead of using they, them. I've said this once and I'll say it again. It takes a next level amount of narcissism to think that you can control people's speech when referring to you with the flip of a switch. But regardless, that's not the point that I want to make. So I've recently had the pleasure of connecting with a lot of transgender individuals, and this news is just a slap in the face to anyone who struggles with gender dysphoria but believes in the biological reality between male and female. And of course, people will say it's transphobic for me to sit here and say there are two genders and that is a biological reality. But it's not transphobic to use gender dysphoria and being transgender as a means for attention. I'm sorry, but if anything is anti-trans, I would think using their movement for an attention grab is exactly that.
When I saw this headline on Twitter, I was immediately like, that is the most trans thing I have ever read. Do you know how many times I've changed a label, stopped using a label, or just don't use a label around certain people or groups because I don't feel like being harassed or having to explain myself? I stopped saying I have he, him pronouns to cis strangers because the look of confusion and processing in their eyes was a little too much for me to bear consistently. Introducing myself as non-binary instead of trans mask if I'm wearing a dress or makeup because I don't feel like explaining that. But also telling cis family members to use he, him pronouns for me because I know they don't understand non-binary identities. Calling myself trans mask when I want to connect with other trans mask people about hormones and identities. But then only going bi non-binary in other spaces because there's so many queer people that hate trans men and trans masks but are okay with non-binary people. Saying that I'm in a sapphic relationship with my girlfriend when both of us don't like using that label and consider our relationship to be lesbian. And the thing is, I'm not even doing this around cishet people. I'm doing this around other queer people. My labels, identities, pronouns vary day to day, minute to minute, based on how much I feel like explaining myself, how much I feel like confusing people, and how tired I am. When they say you will never stop coming out, they mean it. When I saw this headline on Twitter, I was immediately like, that is the most trans thing I have ever read.
This makes me laugh because my reaction to people being confused about my pronouns is honestly the opposite. My bio says they/he. It would say they/he/she because I'm okay with any pronouns as long as they kind of get rotated, as long as I get a little bit of fucking variety. So I took the she out because I get she, her just 99% of the time. And honestly, it's made almost no difference. People still just use she, her constantly to the point that she, her feels like misgendering, even though I would be comfortable with it if it wasn't the exclusive pronoun that people choose to use for me. So, good times.
Women's restroom, she doesn't think that she belongs to be in there, but it's like,
He's about to say, but she looks like a woman. So, do you belong in the women's restroom? You look like a woman to me. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if that sounds weird, okay? Listen, I ain't being hateful. I'm just making an observation like you are, right? So, do you think you belong in the women's restroom? Because you, to me, really look like a woman. But if you don't think you do belong in the women's restroom, then why should they? I'm just saying.
So Demi Lovato changed her pronouns. No longer they, them.
First of all, I love Anna as a creator. I think she's incredible. If you're not following her, you definitely should be. She goes on to say in the video that, like, hey, Demi, it's okay. It's okay to change pronouns. And it's okay also if you want to use she and they pronouns, which I believe Demi Lovato was doing for a minute, like using both. And now she's stating that she's using she, her pronouns because it is exhausting to always have to validate your own pronouns and talk about the experience of being non-binary and what that means, and especially in regards to pronouns. And I get that. I totally get that as a non-binary person. There is a lot of times where I find myself in spaces where people use she, her. Even people who are like, 10 cups of woke and progressive, and even people in my own community, even in the LGBTQ community, people misgendering me. And I hate that. And it makes me feel a certain kind of way when it happens. But I know it's going to happen. And in fact, when I go into newer spaces, that happens a lot. And so there's times where, yes, I will correct people. Sometimes I'll have that conversation about gender neutral pronouns and actually how far they go back and how valid they are. And sometimes I don't. So I understand where Demi is coming from. But I also want to speak on the fact that we need to normalize using multiple pronouns and also changing our pronouns. I have gone from she, her pronouns to using all pronouns to using any pronouns to now using they, them exclusively. However, it is a journey, and the beautiful thing about a gender journey is that it's fluid and it can change and it can shift, and we need to give each other grace, and we need to normalize that does happen. And when someone changes their pronoun, to not question their identity or their existence or their history or currently how they're expressing themselves. Like, let's talk about that. And also follow Anna.
Pronouns is just too exhausting. This confirms.
All that confirms is you conservators will stop at nothing to be exhausting if it's something you don't believe in. You guys do not know what it means to live and let live at all. Nope. Because if there's somebody's business, you guys gonna be all up in it like, what's going on? What's going on? How can we stop it? How can we be exhausting? Bitch, your whole fucking page is nothing but rage farming. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Because I may be a lot of fucking things. A lot of undesirable things. But I'm not you. And that I'm glad about. Alright. Run along. Be insignificant. Bye.
Hey besties. So, first of all, this is my favorite photo of Demi Lovato.
Here's my take on Demi Lovato changing her pronouns again. First, it's no one's fucking business. She can call herself whatever she wants to call herself. Second of all, for a lot of people, gender is not something you just wake up one day and are 100% sure of. For many people, it's a process of them figuring out what it is. And so I don't think it's anyone's place to get mad at someone for having changed their pronouns multiple times. It just could be something that they're still figuring out, and that's okay. And third, even if the people are saying Demi just did it for attention and now she's doing it again for more attention because she has an album coming out, even if that's the case, which maybe it is, there are other people seeing your videos and seeing your commentary who are still figuring out their gender and are trying to work on it. And they deserve to hear that it's okay to not be sure. And it's okay to change. And they should know that there are people out there who support that.
Demi Lovato is probably one of my favorite trenders of all time.
I have to record at least 3 seconds, so I'm gonna ask you a quick little question. Ever heard of self-discovery? True scum are fucking dumb.
Leave Demi Lovato alone. So this drama played out with Demi's bio. Demi had they, them pronouns. Demi is non-binary in the bio. And then Demi added she, her pronouns. And non-binary people were upset. You cannot dictate for someone else what pronouns are affirming to them. That's immoral. It is okay for people to go on a gender journey. It is okay for there to be updated information. And lastly, if you are coming after Demi Lovato so that Demi's narrative, her narrative, will fit cis people's idea of what non-binary is, stop that. We are not living our lives for that anymore.